So when I picked up the car, I had day plates on it. I tried bringing it across the state line, and turns out I was actually detained by Homeland Security for 4 hours. All the time, they say no. They turn me around. They say they have no problem with me, but the car, they do not want it down there.
There's no denying what we want. There's no denying what we want. Playing games now. There's no denying what we want. There's no denying what we want. Playing games now. There's no denying what we want. There's no denying what we want. Playing games now. There's no denying what we want. There's no denying what we
Alright you guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the show. Yeah, we're back baby. Big turbos, V8s, Skylines, and no, this isn't multiple videos. We're talking all of the above in one single vehicle right here. Probably the most unique JDM import that we have featured in the history of doing this show. And I'm happy to bring it to you guys here on Roads Untraveled. So this is a build that has been in the making for years. I have been exchanging messages with Justin for almost 2 years now, and he's been telling me all about his 4-door Skyline R34 carbureted V8 single turbo build. And that caught my attention immediately because I have always wanted to put a carbureted V8 in something that is not meant for it, okay? That, you know, won't necessarily destroy the spirit of the vehicle, but might piss a few people off in the process, but overall will create a beast of a car and not something I have ever seen in my entire life. So the exhaust valve is closed right now, and it's got a cutout, so in a second here, when we get to the bottom of the hill, I'm gonna open the dumps, and then the exhaust dumps right beneath the floorboard, and the spirit of America will come fully alive beneath this JDM monster. It takes a little bit to get used to driving this thing. It's got a few components from many different cars. Now this is a 90s JDM Nissan Skyline through and through. I mean, this is not even legal to import in the States yet. So this engine is like, whoa, what's going on? I just woke up in Never Never Land. I don't know what's going on here, you know? Okay, so right here, this is the secret to success in Vancouver. You don't want a VI. There you go, there's some exhaust for you guys. Woo! Okay.
So my name is Justin. Some of you know me as Jay. I'm from JR34, and this is my R34 Skyline with a V8 small block Chevy. The car I got as a beat up old shell. It came to me 3 years ago. It was all cut up and all beat up, so I always wanted a V8 car. I never knew that I'd be putting a small block Chevy into one of these cars, but just because of the wiring situation, the car was all cut up and the chassis was pretty beat up. I said, you know what? Let's put a small block Chevy in it. So. Yeah, so the overall plan, I always had the vision of this car to look exactly how it is, very OEM-esque, but pretty modified at the same time. I always wanted a wide body R34. I never knew I was gonna get a 4-door sedan. Always wanted a 2-door, but this literally just fell into my lap. So I figured, you know what, why not go to this extent on it? Yeah, so this is probably my 4th or 5th Skyline. First R34, I've driven multiple R32s. Yeah, so it's a small block Chevy 350, which translates to a 5.7 liter. The turbocharger kit is actually from CX Racing, meant for more of a second gen Camaro. For the most part, it fit incredibly well. It took months of research and, good old Wikipedia for dimensions of engine bays and all that stuff. And I'm like, you know what, this is really gonna work. For the most part, it's unmodified, except for one exhaust manifold. I did have to modify it, just cut it back a little bit, that way the turbo actually sits in the engine bay and not so far forward. I ended up having to custom route the external wastegate onto the turbo elbow, help for that boost creep. It is a 60 mil external wastegate and also a 76 mil turbocharger. The intercooler, for the most part, fit incredibly well. It's a front mount. I made all the custom bracketry, everything I made all myself. So all the engine mounts and the bracketry, all the routing is all done by me. And yeah, there was a little bit of customness to it, but for the most part, I made it work really beautifully.
A Chevy 350 already has very responsive torque. And then you toss some boost in it via an amazing sounding turbocharger, and you have yourself a car that only really revs. I mean, it can go to 7,000 RPM, but you get a bunch of valve flow, right? So you want to shift kind of around 5, and that's like, honestly, peak torque feels like it's somewhere around 4. So, this car definitely does lend itself to the tighter roads and very quick acceleration. It's so incredibly loud. There's just something about it. Every time you hit the gas, it's not like really consistent. And that's not a knock against the car. It's just how these engines behave. Like you get something different every single time you hit the gas. Every single time you shift, the sounds are constantly changing. Like, I mean, hands down, if this isn't one of the coolest Skylines I've ever driven, if not the coolest, in the definition of the word cool. I mean, a GTR is cool, but I don't know, this puts up a good fight. It really does. Very tough learning curve to drive, honestly. Oh yeah. Still got that tight Skyline steering though. It's getting a little smoky in here. I gotta close the exhaust off. So the transmission is actually from a second gen Camaro. It's a 5-speed. It's got very short gears. And when I mean very short gears, I mean extremely short gears. And it's extremely hard to shift. This is probably the shortest and notchiest shifter I've felt in my entire life. It combines the spirit of America with the spirit of Japan, like almost more so leaning to the American side. Everything about the feeling of driving this car is very robust and American and old school muscle, It does not have power steering. This is like, takes some real muscle to move this steering wheel here. And I'm not really surprised. Throttle pedal's very heavy. Everything about the car is like, you gotta have real intention. You gotta have the balls to really show this car who's boss, You cannot be a timid driver in a car like this.
Yeah, so I always wanted a dark gray car. I was originally thinking about getting a 2019 STI color, a dark charcoal, but for me, personally, it flipped to black way too much. I ended up coming across a Kia Stinger GT dark charcoal, and it was a charcoal. It flipped to black a little bit, and then also it flipped to a very cool milky purple, so it had good spectrum on it. So I ended up deciding, you know what, that's the color for this car. Yeah, so the entire body kit on this car, it's an R S-Tune edition front bumper, Z-Tune front fenders, and then a GTR wide body on a sedan. The entire kit itself came from a company in Russia. They did an amazing job producing this kit. It was about $3,000 US for the entire kit shipped. Phenomenal deal. It's a pretty penny, mind you, keep in mind that. But for what I got, a phenomenal deal. So I did all the bodywork, everything myself, like I mentioned. So in my garage for about 3 months or so, I've been fiberglass molding everything all in, make it super sleek, OEM-esque, like I said. So then I did all the fiberglass filler work, everything, molding it into the dog leg, into the quarter panel, making it seamless essentially. Keeping, you know, factory body lines in mind, and it's inspired to this. So I feel that I did a pretty good job at it. I'm not a bodyman by trade by any means, and to have the seal of approval from actual bodymen seeing this car, it's pretty encouraging to have.
Turbo spools up really quickly, probably the quickest spooling 76mm turbo I've ever felt. And that's no thanks to 5.7 liters of displacement behind it. And then you can spool up your turbo. I mean, it's only 5 PSI, so like, it's not a laggy car. It still kind of feels like kind of NA. It's something that a lot more people are going to be doing in the future, you know, experimenting with different kinds of engines in these cars, because the chassis take so well to modifications. You can put whatever suspension you want on it. I mean, the transmission fits perfectly, and it's from a second-gen Camaro from like the early 70s. A 40-year-old transmission in a 25-year-old Japanese car is, you know, it's really cool. But inside when you're driving it, it still feels like a project car. Not in the sense that it's not finished, but it feels like a project car in the sense like it's rowdy. You know, you don't know what's gonna happen next. Woo! Oh yeah, okay. See, this is the thing. I go to this car meet most Fridays in our local area here, and it's like an old school muscle car meet, you know? There's a bunch of old school cars and trucks, and everybody comes out and has a good time. It's like old white guy territory, you know? But I kind of respect the theme of the meet, so I park like on the side streets and then just walk in to appreciate the other cars. But a car like this, it sounds like it has so much soul from old school America that you can confidently roll into a meet like that or a show like that. And once you pop the hood, I guarantee you, you have just earned the respect of a lot of American muscle fans who have no idea what an R34 Skyline is, but then maybe they'll want to learn a little bit more about the swap, how you did it, and what's so exciting about a swap like this. I mean, why would you put a V8 in the Skyline? I don't know. Usually it's for drifting, so you have torque. So you have instant torque rather than like a high strung out turbo 4-cylinder, but not in this case.
You know, I want to be unique. I didn't want to be typical run-of-the-mill V8 car, LS, you know. I wanted to be unique and different. So small block Chevy, I feel, entertains the older generation crowd. You know, it's pretty cool having, you know, classic Porsche owners come up to the car and going, nice job, man, this is a pretty cool car. So it's a nice feeling, very old school as far as the heart goes. Yeah, so the setup for ignition that I'm running is MSD Pro Billet. It's got the 6AL digital box. And I've been learning a lot on how the car itself reacts. Every single time I drive it, I hear a weird noise, I'm like, oh, it's that. Or, hey, you know what? The car doesn't like how I drive it this specific way, so I alter it and find the sweet spot essentially. It's like a diesel truck. For the gearing ratio, you've got to start out in second gear, and then, you know, second to third, kind of boring, but if you want that open wastegate sound, slamming it from third to fourth to fifth is an amazing feeling. The exhaust notes are unreal. The transmission that I'm running is a T5 Camaro transmission, and then I have a custom one-piece drive shaft made for that. It's a factory Skyline rear end, so like I said, because of the gearing ratio, it doesn't like to go too fast. It does top out roughly around 120 kilometers on the highway, which personally I'm okay with because it keeps me out of trouble. So as I mentioned, my YouTube channel and Instagram channel is JR34, so it's JAYY_R34. Yeah, I started up about a year ago perhaps, and it's just been transpiring into, you know, little tidbits here and there. So I'm getting a lot of great feedback from people from little meets and stuff, little car shows, organized events, and it's been great. So yeah, drop me a like, drop me a follow. I'd really appreciate it. I've actually already had a few subscribers come up to me and say what's up. Very humbling for that to happen. Thank you so much, guys. But yeah, definitely, if you want to check me out, that'd be super appreciated, and see how I built this car in my garage. It actually shows the full GTR wide body molding process on my channel. So yeah.
I mean, if you just pulled up to a car meet and you looked at this car with the window down and you poked your head inside, you see a boost gauge, you see an air fuel gauge, you see a stock R34 gauge cluster that works, and a shifter that looks like it totally belongs in here. You would think it was a turbocharged car. You would think it was an RB25. You know, it's got a boost gauge on it. It's all JDM, man. You've got the dual A-pillar gauge pod. Like, everything screams RB25 turbo Skyline, JDM life, yo. And then you start up the engine and your heart just like stops. You're literally in shock to hear a V8, and I know some of you guys right now are screaming, especially you guys in the States. We've had R34s in Canada for like 10 years now, so it's not, people have gotten over the honeymoon phase in like non-GTR Skylines. You can get shells for dirt cheap. A 4-door Skyline R34 shell is like a few $1,000s, you know, under $5,000. My eyes are like, Marcus, you're living the JDM dream in an R34 Skyline again. Look behind me, R34 GTR wing. But my ears are telling me I've traveled back to 1960s America. I don't know. It's kind of sending my brain on a little bit of a whirlwind right now. I mean, it's one way to wake up. It's a good morning. It definitely keeps your senses alive. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I sincerely appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit me up on Instagram at @RoadsUntraveled. If you want to follow what we're shooting on a day-to-day basis and kind of see some of the behind-the-scenes shenanigans of a shoot like this, I had a lot of fun. But we're going to quiet it down a little bit. These people out here are like their peace and quiet. We'll see you guys soon.